First of all, we'd like to thank everybody for coming. I was not planning to speak tonight at all, but it's been a very big challenge. Of course, we have no control over the weather, but we're very fortunate enough to be here. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our hosts, Monique and David Haddad, for opening up their home. God bless both of them, who really go above and beyond. It wasn't easy putting this event together, and through it all, both of them really came through with an open heart. And we hope, God willing, that this event will be the first of many successful and happy occasions for them and their family for many years to come. Amen. Just to give a little bit of an overview of the organization, I've had the privilege myself with my wife, really my wife has been involved for many, many years in working with people that struggle with infertility. Bonei Olam was founded over 25 years ago by Rabbi Bachner, who's here tonight. Him and his wife were not fortunate to have children, and he said he was going to take it upon himself to build the future of Klal Yisrael, one baby at a time. And what he really did in the last 25 years, through medical support, through counselor support, through financial support, has assisted in the birth of over, I believe, 12,000 children in the last 25 years. I'd like to introduce the first speaker. It's a very short program. I'd like to introduce Rabbi Bachner, who's going to give us a few words on the organization and all the amazing work that they've been doing. Rabbi, kavod.
Good evening, and I also join in thanking the hosts. Hashem should give a lot of bracha on this home for opening up the door for such a great mitzvah. Yes, I do recall in the early days of Bonei Olam, 26 years ago actually, when we took upon ourselves to help anybody that knocks on our doors. I was actually involved in your community way before, when we had an organized Sephardic division. I have some children born to this community which are, Baruch Hashem, by now married and have their families on their own. Thank God. Yes, we made a difference in Klal Yisrael, all with Hashem's help. We do a host of so many services in this area which many people maybe are not aware of, but we do take care, basically, from the beginning to the end, whether it's shidduchim with people which are compromised with issues on their own, whether a child, unfortunately, is born ill and we do not know the diagnosis of this child, so we can prevent anything more like that happening to that family. Fertility, male infertility, genetics, cancer. It's a huge umbrella of a lot of chesed. And it makes me very proud once a year to join and to meet the people from the Sephardic division. And I do thank everybody for coming and joining and being part of it. I do want to share with you one tiny little story, one tiny little episode, which will make everybody think twice before they decide how much to contribute to this organization. I lost my father this year, 6 months ago. My father lived 101 years. And Baruch Hashem, he was lucid, he was with his full mind till the last second of his life. He went to shul every day, morning and at night, until the last 3 weeks before he passed away. And I had the zchus many times to be on the roll call to take care of my father, whether taking him to shul or to spend some time, even with my very, very busy schedule. My father, the last 5-6 years in his life, took a very interesting, keen interest in Bonei Olam. And many times I used to wonder, I used to say, Ta, you built a beautiful family. What interest do you have in this organization? He used to smile. But one story stands out, which this is what I want to speak tonight about. One night I took him home from shul. It was a very bad weather, cold and rain. But he went. I had a plastic around him that he should not get wet. Now finally he made it back home. We had a chair next by the door. Whenever he came in, he should be able to sit down and relax for a few minutes before he moves on. And I was hovering over him, making sure that he's sitting comfortable. And I said, Ta, I have some great news to share with you tonight. And he looks at me and says, like what? And I told him, you know, Ta, I told you once that we're so busy opening up a new lab. Bonei Olam has its own laboratories all over because we do certain things that commercial fertility centers don't want to venture in there. And it brought us many babies to families that had no other chance. I tried to explain this for a 98-year-old man the best I can. And I told him, Ta, it's such a special day because the first baby was born after all this hard work from this laboratory. He looks at me and he says, and you are just standing there. I says, Ta, what do you want me to do? He says, you should dance. You should jump for joy. How can you not dance when you had this chut to bring about this for Klal Yisrael? So I just stood there. My father did not understand that I work 18 to 20 hours a day. And by then I was drawn to the bone. And he says, my child, sit down next to me. I want to tell you something. So I sat down next to him. This was a ritual. Many times I used to come up to my father and just sat next to him, held on to his hand, even when there was no talking. It made him feel calm and it made him feel good. So he tells me, mein Kind, by us we say, it's my child. I want to share with you something. He says, you know, in Yerushalayim, in the 1947, 48, 49 years, which the hunger was so widespread in Israel, people literally died of hunger. And in those days, there lived a very great tzaddik. His name was Rabbi Mordechai. Mordechai Goldman actually was his name. They come from a lineage from very, very, very special people. And there was at one point that 2 days this man had no food in his mouth. And he was sitting and learning in a very famous yeshiva. I hope maybe a lot of people know. It's called Yeshivat Chaya Olam. This is the biggest and oldest yeshiva in Yerushalayim. And middle of the day, when everybody went home, he remained himself singly in the shul. And all of a sudden, he felt so weak, his eyes started to darken. He felt like he was passing out. He was beyond starvation. And he knew he had a wife and children at home, and they were starving too. He just couldn't bear the pain anymore. When all of a sudden the door opens up and a man walks in and looks around, there's nobody there. He walks over to him, sits down across his table and says, Rabbi, I need your help. This man was 32 years old. And he had a family, a wife and children. And all of a sudden he didn't feel good. He went to the doctor. Even those days they knew enough about this issue that he was dealing with, and they told him that he has left maybe 6 months to live. So he had no place where to turn. So he came up to this great man and sat down and started to cry. I have a wife and children at home. And this Rabbi Mordechai looks at him and says, so what do you want from me? I don't do medicine. I'm not a doctor. He says, I need your blessing. Can you only imagine if I'm not around, who's going to take care of my wife and of my children? And he started to cry. And this Rabbi Mordechai looked at him and said, but still, what do you want from me? What can I do for you? He took out a swat of cash, put it on the table. He says, Rabbi, this is my pidyon. Please, please, do me a favor. Rabbi Mordechai stopped for a second and started to think and to think and to think. And he started telling himself quietly, how in the world can I take on a... And finally he became quiet and he said, you know what? Yes, Hashem will give you, send you a refuah. 30 years passed after that day. This man married off his children already. And one day he wakes up in the morning and he feels the same pain and the same aches. He knew right away, God knows what this is. This reminds me of so many years ago when he went to the doctor. Medicine was quite more advanced. He took and walked into the doctor. There was one blood work and one x-ray, and the doctor told him, maybe 4 weeks, maybe. He walked out so disappointed and so hurt, but he knew in his heart he has an address where to go to. He walked up to Rabbi Mordechai's house, As he opened up the door, Rabbi Mordechai was coming in from the back room into the front room, and when he saw him for a second, he said, "Stop, stop." And he came over to him and says, "Sorry, I cannot be of any more help to you." He knew right away what was happening. The man was a great man. And he started to cry. He says, "Why? You helped me 30 years ago. Why can't you help me now?" He says, "You have to understand, young man, when you walked into me 30 years ago, I was dying of hunger. I had a family at home which were dying of hunger. The children were crying for a piece of bread. It was pekuach nefesh. I jumped into this because I knew if not, my family will not survive. So I took upon myself something which is so against conventional wisdom, and I promise you, you're going to have a refuah. Today, I'm not hungry. My wife is not hungry. My children are not hungry anymore. I am not the right shaliach for you. Go find a person that learns Torah and is very poor and help him. Maybe he will be able to give you a bracha." So my father turns to me and he says, "My son, my name is Shlomi, my father's name was Shalom." He says, Shlomi, do you understand what means helping people when they're in such a pain, that they're hurt, and there's no hope, and you had the zchut?" Then he ends up with a line which I will never forget. 1939, he was kidnapped by the Nazis, and he stayed 3 years in Auschwitz. And he tells me, "My child, if you would see how many trainloads of children that I saw that unfortunately were taken to the gas chambers, you would understand the value of every child we can add to Klal Yisrael." My dear friends, you should never know. You should never understand. You never be introduced to a fraction of this pain that couples struggling with fertility are going through. These people are really, really, really hurting. And you know what's more hurtful than that? When medicine is so good to us, and we are restrained because our resources cannot address everybody's needs. We can really help so many more people. I have to think 10 times, can I take on another patient? Can I not take on another patient? It's quite embarrassing even to say this in public when so much is available and so many people don't understand the value of helping such a couple, such a people cross their bridge, their journey of infertility to finally be parents. I can only ask and beseech on their behalf. People are really struggling. I'm not a man here for money. I'm not a paid person. I do this solely because I know and understand their pain. Please have in mind, when you're supporting Bonei Olam, you are supporting a couple that is struggling and that is hurting. And you, and only you, can make the difference for that person. Our budget is so skimpy. Sorry to say that, but it's so skimpy. Every dollar has to be figured 10 times before we can actually do what we want to do for a couple. They should have the best chance to be able to become parents as soon as possible. So I ask you, please, think before you donate to this organization, what you're really donating to. You are building a family in Klal Yisrael. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Bachner, for those inspiring words. We're going to move the program along. We're going to keep it short. We're going to now play a video, very short video, just to give you a glimpse into one of the stories of Bonei Olam.
So me and Linda, we got married in 2019. Everything was looking bright.
Ever since I was little, I always wanted children. I always treated my sister's kids like my own, and I said, you know what, I can't wait to have my own children.
Now came time to have a kid, and soon after we realized it wasn't going to be as easy as we had planned. We did a little bit of digging and learned that we had to do IVF. However, I don't think I truly understood the magnitude of what it would take. We're very positive people. We trust in Hashem, and you do a cycle. It doesn't work. You got to go back and do it all over again. Another cycle. it doesn't work. Over and over and over, like really puts you in a dark spot. You start questioning, are we gonna get there? How long is this gonna take? Are we crazy? With each cycle of IVF, you're at the very least spending a base price of $10,000, $20,000, and then you gotta add on all the ultrasounds with medications, and after all that, there's no guarantee you're coming out with a baby. That's when we knew we needed some more help just to get to the finish line.
Someone mentioned Bonei Olam, so we reached out to them and they said, no problem, we got you.
Bonei Olam is this fantastic organization that goes well above and beyond to help couples just like us.
They make us not feel stressed out because they pay for every single thing. We're gonna get one bill. They also helped us get one of the toppest doctors, Dr. Claus. He was the one that helped us get our healthy, beautiful baby.
Not for Bonei Olam, we probably wouldn't have had the perseverance to continue the way we did. And without them, I promise we wouldn't be here today.
I am so happy to have Elva. Elva's the love of my life. My pride and joy. We're just so blessed to have him in our lives, and he's really a miracle from Hashem. Bonei Olam helped us get this miracle.
I recommend anybody who is going through infertility, they gotta know that they're not alone. There's an organization that really goes above and beyond, is really there to hold their hand every step of the way. They took a lot of the fear and a lot of the stress out.
At this time, I hope everyone that is going through this, they have the same happiness as us.
The story you just heard is one of thousands of stories that takes place almost every day through Bonei Olam. Bonei Olam was founded 25 years ago by Rabbi Bachner and his wife. They had one goal in mind, to help bring more children into the world. And in the last 25 years, over 10,000 babies have been born. In 2021, members of our community partnered up with Bonei Olam and created a Sephardic division, catering directly to our community. This financial assistance can only be made possible with your support. When you help someone conceive a child, the gratitude is felt when their baby's born, when the baby starts to walk, when their baby has a bar or bat mitzvah, when their baby gets married. We ask you today to please become our partner and help build the next generation in our community. By giving money to Bonei Olam Sephardic Division, you are assisting in creating the next generation. It's our hope and prayer that through your will continue to bless our entire community with health, wealth, happiness, and prosperity for many years to come. Forgive me, like I said, I wasn't planning to speak. You probably saw too much of me already. But Harry called me a couple of hours ago. He's stuck in the city. And we're doing our best that we can continue the program. All of you really deserve a special, all of you deserve a special Chazak u'Baruch and really extra credit for coming out tonight on such a challenging night. Thank you again. Our next speaker needs no introduction. A rabbi who grew up in the community and then got married, raised a family actually outside the community, and came back here about 6 years ago or so and took the community by storm. I could really stand here for another hour or so and talk about the greatness of Rabbi Shlomo Farhi and all that he has contributed in just a few short years being back here in the community. A rabbi, he's a rabbi and he's become a close friend of mine. We speak periodically. And I can just tell you, just by talking to him and working with him on different projects, the rabbi has a passion like no other. Everything he touches, everything he gets involved with, he puts his heart and soul completely into. And it's really a tremendous zechut to have him with us tonight to give us some inspirational words on this special organization and this special cause. Rabbi Farhi, Kavod.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is a very important night. And it's like those moments in your life that you don't know how important they are until some later point where you look back and realize that that night was the most important moment, most important night of your life. All you did was you went to a party and then you saw your wife. All you did was you shook hands with someone in a coffee shop. They became your lifelong business partner. It started off like a regular day, but that day would be the day that would change your life. Tonight is a night that will change lives. A night that couples will be able to point backwards to in time and say it was on that night in the house, in the welcoming home of David and Monique Haddad, that the money was raised to be able to give us a chance to build a family. Tonight has the possibility of being those children's most important night of their lives. And with that opening, I want to share with you a story. I did a Pesach program this year, and a woman tells me, "Have I got a story for you?" And she tells me the following story, a story that I knew I was going to put in my pocket, and I knew I was going to tell it to you tonight. I've got permission from her to tell you her name. Her name is Chedva Bro. Her husband's name is David. And in 2004, in his third year of law school, he and his wife were barely making ends meet, and they were living day to day off of his school and his student loans. Well, they tried and were unable to have children and realized that they would need the help of IVF. They found out in October of 2004 that the price back then was $10,000. They went to the student loan office and said, "Is there any way that we could take out $10,000? And the student loan officer said, "I'm really sorry. All you have left for this term, all I can give you is $5,000. If you want the other $5,000 for this project, you'll have to wait until the new term, until January." She took the money, put it on the side. It was half of what she needed to be able to hopefully have her dream. But then one night, Chedva gets a phone call. And it's her brother, and he's calling from Israel. And he says, "Chedva, you know this girl, I know her for a while. I love her. I've decided I want to marry her. And I want to propose, but I don't have enough money for a ring. And I told her that I want to propose, but that I don't have a ring. And her grandmother offered to give me the diamond for the ring. What do you think I should do?" And Chedva said to her brother, she says, "You can't propose to a girl with a ring that you got from her." She says, "You know, I have $5,000. I have a connection. I'll bring the money to the guy. I'll ask him to copy my ring, and you'll use that ring, and that's how you'll get married. But you have to promise me one thing. Promise me you'll get me my $5,000 back in January." What a sister. She tells her brother, "It's taken care of. Don't worry, I got you." The brother's so excited. He's so happy. He tells her, "Chedva, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, but I'm so excited. I got so much energy. You pumped me up. I want to go right now to the kotel. And I'm going to pray to God that you and David should be able to have a baby." He did not know why Chedva and David, who was struggling for cash, had $5,000 put aside. He did not know. Nobody knew, because they had not told anyone that they needed IVF or that they needed fertility treatments. They didn't need the pressure. They didn't want the questions at every event, at every family simcha. People knew that they wanted to have a family, but nobody knew more than that. And now she definitely wasn't going to tell him, because then he would never take the money. Well, she gets the ring. He comes back home, and they fly to Miami for the engagement, and she sees the ring that she paid for, that she arranged on her sister-in-law's finger. And she thinks to herself, what have I done? That's my baby. What if my brother can't get the money back to me? What if? She was terrified. But she flew back home after that engagement party. And not 24 hours after she gets home, does she get a phone call. And the other side of the phone is a rabbi, and the rabbi says, hi, I'm calling you from Bonei Olam. Is this Chedva Bro? She says it is. What's Bonei Olam? He says Bonei Olam is an organization that helps people who need fertility with the funds that they need to be able to have a baby. An anonymous donor called in a $10,000 donation for you to have a full cycle of IVF. She can't believe what she's hearing. But she says, who is it? I need to know. He would not give her secret. She threatened not to take the money. Still, the rabbi protected the anonymous donor's identity until he says, which clinic are you using or were you going to use? And they transfer $10,000 to Duke University Clinic in 2004 at the end of December. Well, my friends, she didn't know who it was. She figured it might be her brother's parents-in-law who maybe found out about the ring and felt bad. But she went ahead with the treatment. In late January, her brother brought back the $5,000. But by that time, she didn't need it. Because midway through January, David and Chedva Bro found out that they were pregnant, thanks to Bonei Olam. My friends, their daughter Miriam was born on August 29th, 2004. Almost exactly 9 months from that phone call. She'd put herself second. She'd worried about someone else. So God worried about her. It was only later, my friends, that Chedva found out that that anonymous donor was not her brother-in-law, her sister-in-law's parents, but rather it was one of her own friends who'd found out that she was struggling and decided to donate the money for her. A friend that felt the pain that she was going through because she herself had gone through 5 cycles of IVF and had 5 miscarriages and had never been blessed with a child. So she took the money and paid for Chedva to have her first round. Well, that woman not only was the cause of Miriam Bro being brought into the world on August 29th, but on that cycle, she became pregnant and had a baby as well. My friends, our rabbis tell us that when we worry for others, God worries for us. When we take care of others, God takes care of us. But I ask you, is there any more essential, more fundamental thing that you could give to somebody than having a child? Is there anything that we wouldn't give of ours to save our child? That means that everything that we have is that gift that we tonight have the chance to give to somebody else. We have the chance to ensure that our children will merit to have because we're worrying about someone else. And when we do that, God worries for us. My friends, for some people, Bonei Olam is a source of funds. For some people, it's a source of support and advice. But for many, Bonei Olam is a source for miracles. Now, what was once something that a few people here and there suffered with, now as a rabbi I can tell you, is far more common than it has ever been before. I don't know why. Maybe Rabbi Bachner knows. But I'm seeing it over and over and over again. Couples that will come to the city with a whole group of friends, and they come together, but they don't progress together. One has a baby immediately. Another couple, nothing, no news, a couple months, a couple more months, how long? A year. You might think that they're waiting for the right time, and then they have a baby. But then there's that couple that sits in the synagogue, sometimes lasting longer in the city because they didn't leave with 2 or 3 kids back to Brooklyn. And when I can tell that it's not a choice, that's when I walk up to them and I whisper in their ear a great secret, the secret of Bonei Olam. My friends, this organization is an organization that has a huge heart. In fact, it has 12,549 hearts. Those hearts of the children, of babies that were brought into this world with the help, the generosity, the persistence of Bonei Olam. But my friends, those 549 hearts are 25,000 plus hearts of a mother and father that are brought back to life, that don't know the loneliness or sadness that they once did. That's 100,000 grandparents who don't have to worry that the family name will die with their children. That is the power of one man, Rabbi Shlomo Bachner, and one woman, Rebbe Simchana Bachner. 2 people who forever changed the landscape of our community, of our people, and our future. There's a quote that I once read that says, "Never believe that a few caring people can't change the world, for indeed, that's all who ever have." And I was reminded of this quote when I walked in tonight in the pouring rain, seeing not as many people as we'd hoped. And because I'm a weirdo, I wrote a little poem. It goes like this. It's raining, it's pouring. Part of our guest list is snoring. The Haddad's tented our head. We were very well fed. Let's send our donations soaring. Now, my friends, tonight, there are less of us. So Bonei Olam needs more from us. I can't ask you enough as a rabbi to do Torah and mitzvot. I'll ask you to keep kosher and Shabbat and the holidays and tzedakah and a lot of things. But maybe you won't do all the mitzvot I'll suggest. So could you help me with the first one in the Torah? The Torah's mitzvah of Peru, Urvu. The most important mitzvah, the mitzvah of our future. May God bless our efforts tonight with many children. May God bless our efforts and provide us miracles in our own life. And may God reward our hosts for everything that they did, including the last minute things that they snapped together to make sure that this event would go on, rain or shine. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should send all the birachot that you could have ever have hoped for or prayed for, because you are helping someone who has been praying in that same vein. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi Farhi, for those inspiring words. Just to put into perspective, Bonei Olam has been assisting couples in our community for many, many years. The last 3 years or so, we carved out a division that all the money raised through our events go directly to couples in our community. So every dollar you give tonight will go directly to couples that are in our neighborhood, in our community, people we know through our shuls, our schools. And it's really something that's very close to home. Aside from the financial assistance, Bonei Olam also offers counselor support, which means different types of direction. You know, it's not easy to go through the journey and to have to deal with different types of doctors and different types of specialists. They also give medical support as well when people have to go into further testing and so forth. It's not an easy procedure. We have now the next speaker, a very special person who will give us an inside look on the journey of infertility. I'd like to call to the stage Michelle Haddad.
And Jack. So last minute, I was asked to speak. This is definitely not prepared, so please bear with me. I want to thank Monique and David for hosting Bonei Olam because this is an amazing organization which I wish was around 35 years ago when I was going through my struggles. So I had my first child at 20 years old, got pregnant easily, had a beautiful baby, and that was my first marriage. I had a beautiful son named Jack, and that was my first marriage. And then I got divorced, and I was separated for 3 years. And throughout those 3 years, all I kept thinking about was, I can't wait to have a brother or sister for my son Jack. I can't wait to have a brother or sister for my son Jack. And then I met my amazing husband Jack, and we got married, and right away we decided we were going to try and have children. So after we tried for 1 month and 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, and I didn't get pregnant. I knew something was wrong. Something just felt wrong. But I had nobody to ask, I had nobody to turn to. Infertility was not a topic that anybody talked about. It was just try to get pregnant, and if you do, you do, you don't, you don't. We kept trying, and then after a year, I have a lot of hakarat hatov from my cousin Barbara Shrem. I was sharing with her the fact that I was trying and I couldn't get pregnant, and she also at the time, unbeknown to me, was also going through infertility and didn't know other doctors to speak to. She connected me with some doctors, and I went to the doctors, and I had one surgery, came home, tried to get pregnant, couldn't get pregnant. Another surgery, came home, tried to get pregnant, couldn't get pregnant. And then after the third surgery, I heard about something called in vitro. It was so foreign to me, but she also directed me where to go, and we went to in vitro specialist, and we started that process. It wasn't such an easy process because you had to take, I had nobody to talk to, nobody to explain to me what I was going to go through, nobody that gave me, at that time, the percentage rate of getting pregnant through in vitro was very low. So all I kept thinking was the next step was going to be adoption. But that was not really what I wanted. I wanted to have a child with Jack. Thank God we went through in vitro, and I finally did get pregnant. I was pregnant for about 2 months, and then unfortunately, even after being pregnant through in vitro, I had an ectopic pregnancy, and both my tubes had to be removed. I wish that there was somewhere or someone to talk to when I was going through this. Bonei Olam gives medical direction. It gives financial assistance. At that time, it was $13,000. I can't even, and it wasn't covered by insurance. I can't even imagine what the price is now. I just really, we continued to, then we started in vitro again after having the ectopic pregnancy, and I got pregnant with my beautiful daughter, Cynthia. And then we continued that process, and fortunately, I have right now 7 beautiful children. But the emotional turbulence that we went through together, because anybody who struggles with infertility knows that it's a couple's thing that you go through together. I wish that I had somebody that could have guided me and held my hand and told me, don't worry, you're going to be okay, or even another parent that was going through it at the same time to share their journey with me, but there was nobody, and that was 35 years ago. Bonei Olam has helped so many people get pregnant now and go through the process of in vitro and infertility so much more seamlessly than what I went through. I feel like tonight was really from Hashem, because I always wanted to share my story, and I really, really beg you to donate to this organization, because it wasn't there for me, and it's there now, and it's there for so many people who are struggling, and the pain and again, up and down of emotional turmoil that you go through is a lot. I'm very grateful to Hashem for the success that I have now with my children, and this is really an